Mark Thompson here. Thank you for listening today. Welcome to Innovate with Ease, Episode 4, The Driver of Innovation. In our previous episodes, we learned about the motor of innovation, the brain, the physical and organic neural that we all possess. This neural facilitates our capacities to exist and thrive. And if you haven't seen these previous episodes, please go back and watch them first. You can refer to the playlist Innovation Lessons to see these episodes in order. Our tissue-based synaptic active logic wetware networks throughout our nervous systems are developed, structured, and organized to empower our bodies to navigate, survive, and thrive in this strange and unknown universe that surrounds us. But these networks of synaptic neurons aren't just circuits to control our every motion, to spark our every sense, or to control our many organs. We're more than just beast machines that traverse the earth and interact with others. Our neural systems are much more. They empower us to be creation machines. They allow us to have volition and ingenuity, and that allows us to create with excellence and innovate with ease. Creativity is expressed from the nervous system. The expression of creativity happens from nervous system to other nervous systems. So it makes sense to know more about this nervous system and how we can maximize it to innovate with ease. There are an estimated 86 billion neurons in the human nervous system. The brain's cerebral cortex alone has roughly 16 billion neurons. Varying with types and locations throughout the brain, each individual neuron shares between 1,000 and 10,000 synaptic connections with other neurons. That provides us with a staggering 125 trillion synapses in the human cerebral cortex alone, and the possible networks across these connections are practically endless. Let's consider transistors in the modern computer processor. Today's high-end semiconductor processor might be something like the NVIDIA A100 GPU. With its 54 billion transistors, a very large number necessary for highly complex information processing, A100 GPUs are used for machine learning, data analytics, and high-performance computing, all the necessities for modern computer-driven artificial intelligence. These GPU devices sell for $8,000 to $10,000 for low-end versions and $18,000 to $20,000 for high-end versions. Very complex and expensive. Now, imagine 2,300 of these high-end A100 GPU devices all connected together. That is the equivalent of the human cerebral cortex. That values your brain at nearly $50 million in equivalent compute value. See your potential value? Now, of course, that doesn't capture everything, but imagine, each one of us carries this tremendous neural capacity of thinking power wherever we go. All of this provided to us in our heads. For what? Well, let's look and see. Let's zoom in and examine that felt-like tissue that are our neural structures. These intertwined and associated networks react to each other using complex organic mechanisms involving chemical salts and ionic charges transported across tiny gaps in fatty strands. This is the physiology of our thinking, our motor of innovation, explored in our previous episode. The astronomical complexity of these highly sophisticated and colossally networked interactions between vastly connected cells arranged in finely intricate patterns give rise to a phenomenon that is unexplainably magical. This mysterious phenomenology, active within our complex physiology, all form to give rise to a sublime beauty that we call the mind. The brain is the most magical of objects. That magic is our mind. Phenomenology. The mind is a phenomenon, and we study it as a phenomenon. The brain can be photographed, but the mind cannot. The mind is not an object, it's an activity. It is patterned activity that rides upon structure that is our living brain. A mind exists because the nature of the brain makes it so. A brain is wired in such ways through specific and common neural networks that allows the mind to exist. And it exists in certain and common ways. So we should study the mind as the subject of phenomenology. This is important because all creativity comes only from the mind. Since a brain's wiring is intricately detailed to all the sensory nerves throughout the body, the mind is able to process a constant tsunami of senses, second by second, minute by minute. Using this constant influx of signals, the mind continuously constructs an internal perceptive model of the world that surrounds it, a dynamic mental image of our surroundings and experiences. And this activity of perception is a unique property of the mind, being able to perceive not just the world around us, but also the world within us. The mind can build a particular phenomenon we call consciousness, a subjective and experiential inner life. I think, therefore I am. We've all heard this phrase coined by the philosopher René Descartes. Consciousness produces an internal perception of self, a you. A you can perceive. A you has faculty. A you can think. A you can understand. A you can comprehend and recognize one's own self. It can perceive one's own unique identity and carry one throughout life with one's own thoughts, one's own agency, one's own volition, one's own ownership, one's own decisions and actions. We can force our mind to contemplate. It's what our own personal vivid experiences occurring through time feel like from inside. A self. And you have many selves. A perspective self, a narrative self, a volitional self, a social self, amongst many others. Beneath this consciousness is a very busy and extensive subconsciousness, often involving your inner brain. This subconsciousness is sort of a shadow self or a ghost self, almost like another person. It does not exhibit a feeling of you, but it's there, helping you survive, building that world model, and casting 90% influence on the decisions that you make. Conscious thoughts are thoughts that you can report. Unconscious thoughts exist, and they can influence you strongly, but you might not be able to report them. They live underneath you. Often the subconsciousness reacts to people's creations, even when your consciousness is unaware. So, neurally speaking, there's obviously a lot to uncover here. How does all this work? What makes consciousness exist? How can we explain the creation of creativity to know how we can create effectively? Centuries of research and scientific study, even to this very day, regardless of all the technical advances at our fingertips, have produced barely a sliver of explanation for how the mind actually exists, why it exists, how it came to be, how it functions, and how it is common in many of us. Yet, here we are, living with it, using it, communicating with it, surviving with it, and thriving with it. You're using it right now to listen to me. So impossible to explain, yet here it is, available and powerful and in all of us. All of it contained within biology, chemistry, and physics. Absolutely amazing. Somehow my conscious mind is able to be amazed about my consciousness being amazing. The conscious mind can do so many fantastic things. Gnosis is a Greek word that means knowledge. Somehow the mind can know. The mind can think. It can create thoughts, bits of knowledge, bits of information that are something a little bit more than nothing. It can imagine. It can memorize. It can grasp, intend, fantasize, evaluate, question, reflect, savor, understand, wander, assess, behold, consider, deduce, decipher, engage. It can be decisive. It can have attention. It can have urge, just to name a few. Your consciousness cannot jump around. It cannot go forward in time or back in time. And it cannot jump to other people, or it cannot be read by other people. It is stuck within you from your beginning until your end. It is you. And through all of this and more, the mind enables us to create. It allows us to innovate. And creation and innovation only come from the mind. To begin our study of the mind, let's attempt to define the mind. Well, unfortunately, that's a bit tricky. Across the world's scientific community, there's barely been a dependable definition of the mind. Likewise, there's barely a definition of consciousness. We don't really know how wet neural activity creates self-realized experiences. Scientific definitions are often stated using terms of physics, and physics is often stated using terms of mathematics. But mathematics itself arose from consciousness, so it can be difficult to explain consciousness in terms of mathematics or physics. Consciousness can only be explained by using consciousness to explain it. Quite a conundrum. So is it even possible to define it? Who knows, the explanation of consciousness may only be answerable in terms of quantum phenomena, something beyond our ability to perceive. We may never be able to explain it. Maybe AI one day will help us explain it. Let's just say we certainly know the existence of the mind with its consciousness because we're using them right now, and that's enough. Our experiences of our minds alone validate the existence and power. So what does the mind do primarily? Why do we need a mind? Why can't we just be walking zombies with our brains simply making us go while maintaining our bodily functions in homeostasis? Trees or grass or bacteria don't have minds. Why do we need them? The likely reason is because we're relatively large and complex creatures that traverse the earth independently. We're not rooted in soil. We do not get our energy from the sun directly. We're not single-celled. We are multicelled and appropriately sized, scaled to the things around us. Our physiology allows us to defy just enough gravity to cover enough distance for us to reach the things that we need to get. We consume other life forms and retrieve other substances to survive. And so our forms are structured in such ways that allow us to be mobile, to find, reach, pursue, and retrieve other life forms and substances to survive. And therein lies the great difficulty. The real world around us is big, it's messy, it's full of things, it's complex and inconsistent. It's hard and sharp, it's hot and dry, it's wet and cold. It's full of other life forms possibly pursuing us. It's dangerous, it's unknown. And so everything about our bodies is situated to deal with all of that danger and all of that mystery. Let's illustrate something. Imagine yourself being your brain and nothing else. You are just your brain, no body, nothing else. You are nothing more than this sloshy, squishy blob trapped inside of a hard, dark skull. You know nothing about what's in front of you, what's beneath you, behind you, above you, or to the sides of you. You can't hear, you can't see, you can't feel, you can't taste or smell. You can't feel any arms or legs or anything. All you can do is just be there and imagine. You suppose that there must be some great mysterious and potentially threatening universe out there beyond your reach. Something terrible for that universe could happen at any moment, inflicting danger upon you. So, how do you deal with this? How can you maintain sanity and continue to exist and thrive? Fortunately for our minds, our brains are connected to limbed bodies full of organs and a vast array of sensors. Sensors that reach out and receive feelings and sights and slivers and flavors of that strange universe. We are sense-making machines. We can feel our own bodies. We know where our feet are, where our hands are, and the positions and orientations of all joints all the time. We can sense our bodies moving, twisting, orienting, and stopping. We can capture light and process images. We can capture shocks and vibrations from ground, water, and air. We can capture chemicals and thermal conditions. We can capture pressures and forces, surfaces, textures, and fluids. Hard, soft, sharp, rough, dry, and wet. Rivers of sensory signals constantly flood the brain all day, all night, all the time, all throughout your life. Bits at a time, these signals are processed as they flow to and through your brain. As the signals reach key areas, a slew of compiling and processing takes place, and multiple sensational signals are compiled with one another, and they are compared with other sensations previously experienced. All of this, within your mind, gets further compiled and assembled, creating a perception, a vision, an interpretation. Within your mind, using the cells of your brain, you quickly construct a neural cognitive image, a modeled mental construct representing what that strange universe outside of our skulls might be. Notice that I did not say what that strange universe is, I said of what that strange universe might be. Remember, our brains are still trapped within these dark skulls, even though they're attached to sensory cells. The mind still doesn't know the world. Your perceptions of the world around you is not literally the world around you. It is a construct of the world around you, a rough, duplicated image constructed within your mind, by your mind, maintained by your brain, completely made up of cellular neural networks. This created mental construct is the best interpretation that the mind is able to build in order to generate any sense of what might be outside that hard, dark skull. Our experiences of the world around us are a constant and controlled hallucination, a grand illusion built on the lenses of our senses. And you are the creator of your own illusion. Even time is part of this controlled hallucination. There is no internal ticking of some neuronal clock. It's just one storied flow. This is your neural intelligence. This is your neural reality. The reality that's actually out there? Who knows? Imagine opening a hatch and lifting your brain out of your skull. What might it see? It might experience the universe in a completely different light. But we can't lift our brains from our skulls. Our minds are only able to create a cognitive model using the extended tools it has available to it. And that's all we know. It's all we can know. The constructive cognitive model of the world is fundamentally based on how the brain and its sensory nerves are wired. The only thing that we can be mostly certain of is our own conscious experience. Everything else is illusion constructed by our consciousness. When we agree with our neural fantasies, that's what we call reality. We're simply not capable to be fully certain of any genuine reality. So, the constant question is, how good are our cognitive constructs? How good are our mental models of this universe? How closely do our neural fantasies match the actual world around us? Is there a universe, or are our senses fooling us? If the mind's cognitive model is good enough, if that model has a base sufficiently full of fine resolution and detail, if that model is refined, matured, and corrected through repeated influxes of sensory signals and experiences, if that model is tested and confirmed to validate mental predictions of the surrounding universe, then maybe we have a good view of the universe. Maybe it's just good enough to survive and thrive. But our subconsciousness never knows. It always tests. Our mental model continuously works to improve. We confirm the model, then change the model. Confirm it again, change it again. Confirm it and change it over and over again, all day, every day, all the time, forever. The model construct of the universe from birth gradually becomes a foundational element of the mind. It becomes what we believe to be reality. We ride life according to that perceived reality, good or bad. That mental model of the universe becomes more useful and more dependable as it constantly updates itself through newer and added experiences, even if those updates are repeated and mundane. The mind is built upon error correction logic. If the mind tells the body to do something and something detrimental occurs, the mind will process the action decision as detrimental and remember that incident as an error. Future decision-making that involves the likelihood of detrimental outcomes will likely be paused or avoided. This improves the skill of surviving the universe. The mind updates the mental model of the universe, preventing repeated negative outcomes. But the mind may also dwell around the edges of the effects of the error and determine if small changes in action could instead produce positive outcomes. If the mind calls for action again using a small action change and no detriment results, the mind will remember the decision event positively and update the mental model. It becomes better. It becomes smarter. It becomes your superpower. Neurons squeeze out good-feeling neurotransmitters, reinforcing a positive situation, holding good memories to recollect. As the mental model matures, the body with its mind becomes more and more able to survive the ever-so-weird universe, often with ease. Your first day of driving a car might be terrifying, making your nerves stand on edge. But your 10,000th day of driving, you're completely comfortable, driving with ease, even in heavy traffic, even without thinking about it. Your driving mental model matures. We look at the performances of gold medal athletes with bewilderment and amazement, but in their minds, their performances are just normal because they've been practicing them frequently and have different mental models of the universe than we do. An infant baby on day one has barely any experience or ability. It cannot possibly survive on its own. But as its mental model and its ability increases as it matures, its survivability increases. This constant error correction followed by attempted improvement behavior becomes foundational for the power of prediction. Because of one's continuously updated cognitive model of the universe and repeated attempts for further improvement of the model, the mind becomes a powerful prediction machine. We as mobile and conscious creatures are in the business of staying alive. Consciousness seeks the differences between what you predict what might happen and what actually happens, and then reacts to the differences. The more your mental model of the world matures, the more your mind can rely upon that model to survive. The more the body can navigate itself around the world, consume what it needs without detriment, the more it can survive and thrive. That is why we need a mind, because we need that cognitive model that it produces and uses. We need to have some working concept of the universe outside of us. We need that prediction machine, and we need it to be effective. That is why we as creatures have a complex mind. Even though our minds become better and better at navigating this world with constant improvements to prediction, it's important to recognize that the mind is not built for accuracy. It's built for utility. Our cognitive model of the world only has to be constructed to predict well, given the sensory inputs. Again, this does not mean our mental constructs are equal to the actual universe. We don't perceive the world as it is. We perceive a view of the world as that view is useful to us. We don't have access to true reality. We only create perceptions of what we think is reality, but it might not be actual reality. That's very important. We may never know what the outsides of our heads actually are. And each one of us construct different mental models. We are all subject to the errors of our senses and interpretations as we mature. But we are also open to learn about each other and ourselves and find out how our interpretations compare. And our creations can be part of that learning journey. Okay, that's just the basics. That's just survival for we free roaming beasts upon this earth. There's still more magic. There's a spice of life to consider. There's humanity. That mental model is able to become even better, more mature, more powerful, helping us survive life and thrive even more. Once we mature the skill of prediction, we can improve our situations of life via actions of influence. But for our minds to become influential, we must fine tune our abilities to experience anything. In testing ourselves in the universe, we may or may not feel the full effects possible with this vast and intricate diversity. There is more to survival than just preparing for physical causes and effects. We must develop this magic to thrive. Our magical minds are able to perceive something called qualia. Qualia is the essence of experience, not just the experience itself, but the sheer character of it. There's more to the sight of someone's hair than just the presence of it. There's the beauty of it. There's the adoration we feel seeing it. There's more to the teeth of a bear. We see the glistening sharpness of its teeth and the terror we feel as they gleam upon us. Qualia are the novelties that our minds enjoy, these magical spices of life. Many experiences add to qualia: the redness of red, the chill of a mountain stream, the elegance and fashion of an evening dress, the pain of soreness, the exquisite taste of fine chocolate, the dreaminess of violin music, the love we feel of our crush, what it's like to feel conscious experiences. Our mind somehow creates this with deep and lasting richness, and we all feel it. All of this somehow rides upon a neural foundation. How can chemistry and physiology do this? Nobody really knows. Our experiences of qualia can be exercised. We can fine-tune our reactions based on various degrees of qualia. And we continuously seek out more qualia and learn from qualia, testing the powers of our minds and surviving our bodies as life progresses. The wonders of life blossom with the qualia in our minds. And it helps us predict better, survive better, thriving for decades, living with more ease for years. This ability of our minds to experience this wonderful richness of life can be applied to our creations, and the foundations of excellent creations can be built with qualia. People love the experiences of qualia, so qualia-invoking features are great to apply to our creations. Our conscious minds are necessary to 1. Make creations exist and happen, and 2. Give them the spiritual features that influence others to experience fascinating and novel qualia. If we're good at creating, we can have others experience specific types of quality that we want them to experience. If we're great at creating, we can select the right qualia that others will really enjoy experiencing and build those directly into our creations. So, how do we do that? These concepts will be covered on the next shows. First, we'll address what's necessary to make creations exist and happen. We'll also look more into what the mind can do, its many conscious capabilities, and conceive how we can make the best use of them. Then, we'll address the second point, what's involved with creating the magic. We'll look to what we can make others' minds do, how we can arouse influence, how we can make our creations influence, how we can invoke a fascinating and interesting quality and really create with excellence, really innovate with ease. So, what are our takeaways? What can we do today? Put yourself in a quiet space and peer into your mind. We call this introspection, an inward examination of your own self, of your own mental and emotional existence. Recognize that cellular biology is involved, but there's also something else involved that nobody knows or understands, not even the world's most renowned scientists. We are magical beings with incredible capabilities, and you have this superpower all the time. You're wonderful and special. Look how wonderful and special everyone else is, too. But also realize, as you look at everyone else, you cannot read their minds, and they cannot read yours. You are the owner of your mind, the sole owner. So feel that ownership and defend it, and catch yourself when you sense that you are attempting to read others' minds. Have no worry when others pretend to read yours. Reading minds is not possible, and reading behaviors is not reading minds. Recognize that your view of the world is just that, a view of the world. It's not real, it's an image. When we feel that we have a good grasp of so-called reality, be ready and willing to take a humble step back. Often the mind needs a relaxing reset and recalibration to gain a better view, a better model, a better construct of the world that enables us to predict with better outcomes, with better success, better survivability, better thrivability, and help others do the same. Keep wondering what that weird world is, and keep trying to find out. Challenge your every limit in that world. Entertain and amuse that lonely brain trapped in that dark skull. Know what your consciousness is. Feel the decisions that it constantly makes. But also try to feel what your subconsciousness is and feel what decisions it's making without your knowing it. It's there, working hard, helping you survive. Of course, there's a lot more about the mind, about consciousness and subconsciousness. Learn as much as you can. Explore your own mysteries. There are great books and resources to provide you with a good head start, so to speak. I recommend a book called Being You by British neuroscientist Anil Kumar Seth, Professor of Cognitive and Computational Neuroscience at the University of Sussex. My second recommendation is a book called The Mind, Consciousness, Prediction, and the Brain by E. Bruce Goldstein, Associate Professor Emeritus of Psychology at the University of Pittsburgh and Adjunct Professor of Psychology at the University of Arizona. These two books, both in audiobook format, can give you an enormous starting point for understanding the mind and its capabilities. I've included several links to videos in a playlist titled The Mind in this Innovate with Ease YouTube channel. I highly encourage you to take time to watch and listen to each and every one of those fascinating videos multiple times. You'll gain a solid starting foundation for everything that is yet to come for creating with excellence and innovating with ease. And while you're introspecting, while you're peering into your own mind, recognize what's doing that peering. It's you. You are the driver of your mind, of your body, and of your life. You, that mental cursor of your mind, are the driver of creation, the driver of innovation. So be ready to drive. Stay tuned and hit that notification bell. Subscribe right now to the Innovate with Ease channel. We've seen the motor, we've seen the driver. Now get ready for the next show where we examine the computer of innovation, where we dive into the many capabilities of our amazing cognitive minds and imagine where those superpowers can take us next. Thank you for listening today.
I do believe we are destined for great things.